If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night and had the feeling that someone was watching you, then what I'm about to tell you is probably going to stay with you for a while. About a year ago, something happened to me that I still think about almost every single day. Not because I don't know what happened, but because I still can't explain it. There are parts of this story that make perfect sense, and there are parts that make me question everything I thought I knew about reality. Even now, whenever I wake up during a rainstorm and see the time glowing on a digital clock, my stomach drops before I even look toward the window. Because for weeks, every night at exactly 3:33 a.m., someone stood outside it. And the worst part wasn't that he was there. The worst part was that there was absolutely no way he could have been there. Before I tell you what happened, I want you to remember something. Most haunted house stories start with people looking for ghosts. I wasn't. I was looking for peace. And I think that's why whatever was waiting for me found me so easily. Stories about grief hit people differently. Some of you listening right now have probably lost someone you loved, maybe recently, maybe years ago. And maybe there are still moments when something reminds you of them so suddenly that it feels like the wound never really healed. If that sounds familiar, kindly like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from and which part of the story hit you the hardest. I believe this story found you today for a reason. Now, let's get back to the story. My name is Claire Donovan. Last winter, after my mother died from cancer, I accepted a temporary caretaker position at the Morris-Jumel Mansion in Washington Heights, New York. If you've never seen it before, the mansion almost doesn't look like it belongs in Manhattan. It sits above the city like a forgotten piece of another century. Tourists come during the day. School groups walk through the historic rooms. Joggers pass through Roger Morris Park. Cars move below. Life feels normal, safe. But old places have a strange way of holding on to things. Especially places where generations of people have passed through without ever really leaving. At first, the job was exactly what I needed. The mansion was quiet. I could work alone. Nobody asked me how I was doing. Nobody gave me sympathetic looks. Nobody reminded me that my mother was gone. Every evening I locked the doors, checked the museum rooms, turned off the lights, and slept in a small caretaker bedroom on the second floor. The first week passed without a problem. Then one Thursday night, during a freezing rainstorm, I woke up for no reason at all. The room was dark, the house was silent, and something felt wrong. Not frightening, not yet, just wrong. I rolled over and looked at the clock beside my bed. 3:33 a.m. Then I heard 3 soft taps against the window. Tap, tap, tap. At first, I thought it was a tree branch. Then I remembered there were no trees near that side of the mansion. I sat up. The rain slid down the glass, and standing outside my second-floor window was a man, completely still, watching me. I don't remember how long I stared at him. Maybe a second. Maybe a minute. The rain ran down the glass between us, blurring his face just enough to make it impossible to identify him. Then lightning flashed somewhere over Manhattan. For a split second, I saw him clearly. Pale skin, dark coat, eyes fixed directly on mine. Then he was gone. The next morning, I convinced myself I was imagining things. Grief has a way of turning shadows into people. But but something about that man's face stayed with me. So I started digging. The mansion kept decades of employee records in a small archive room downstairs. Most visitors never saw it. Over the next few days, I spent every free moment searching through old files, resignation letters, maintenance reports, and handwritten notes from former caretakers. What I found disturbed me. Several caretakers had quit suddenly. Some left without notice. A few never returned after taking time off. And buried in their records were strange complaints, window tapping, a man standing outside after midnight, lost hours they couldn't explain. One caretaker wrote only 3 words before resigning. He found me. The strangest part was the pattern. Every report mentioned the same time, 3:33 a.m. Every report mentioned 3 knocks, and every report mentioned rain, even on nights when weather records showed clear skies across New York. As I dug deeper, another piece of history surfaced. Roger Morris Park had once connected to land beneath and around the mansion long before modern development changed the area. Rumors of disappearances stretched back more than a century, yet entire sections of historical records appeared missing. Pages torn out, names crossed out, dates altered. It felt deliberate, like someone had spent years hiding something. Fear changes people. It changes what they remember, what they admit, what they refuse to say out loud. As I dug deeper into the mansion's history, I realized I wasn't the first person to experience something impossible there. And that makes me wonder, how many of you listening right now have your own unexplained story? If you do, kindly like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from, and which part of this story hit you the hardest. I'd love to read your thoughts. Now, let's get back to the nightmare. That night, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered. For several seconds, there was only static. Then I heard my mother's voice. Soft, weak, impossible. Don't let him inside. The line went dead. My hands were shaking as I walked upstairs. I went straight to the locked storage room. This time I forced it open. Behind old boxes and broken furniture, I discovered a hidden panel in the wall. Behind it was a sealed chamber. The walls were covered with names, hundreds of them. Missing people, former caretakers, visitors, locals. One name froze me where I stood. Claire Donovan, my grandmother. Underneath, scratched deep into the wall, she gave him Claire. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. I'm outside. Let me in. I rushed to the window. Ryan was standing below in the darkness, looking up at me. Then my phone rang. It was Ryan, calling from a subway train in Queens. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. I was staring at Ryan outside the mansion while listening to Ryan on the phone. Claire, he said, why do you sound scared? I slowly stepped away from the window. The figure below never moved, never blinked, just stood there staring up at me. Then, the version of Ryan outside smiled. A wide, unnatural smile that made my stomach drop. I closed the curtain immediately. That was the moment I understood something terrifying. Whatever was haunting the mansion wasn't just appearing to people. It could imitate them. Their faces, their voices, even their text messages. And somehow, it knew things it shouldn't know. I was still trying to process that realization when I heard a car pull into the driveway. A few minutes later, someone knocked on the front door. It was Mrs. Harlan, the museum director. I expected disbelief when I told her everything. The phone calls, the hidden room, the names on the wall, the figure outside. Instead, I watched the color drain from her face. She wasn't surprised. She was afraid. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she looked toward the staircase and quietly whispered, "It found you." Mrs. Harlan finally told me what no one else would. According to her, certain families connected to the mansion became marked generations ago. Every few decades, someone from those bloodlines was chosen, claimed. The details were never written into official records. The story survived through whispers, private journals, and family secrets. For over 100 years, people had hidden the truth. Then, she said something that made everything personal. My grandmother had made a bargain. My mother was supposed to return and fulfill it. Instead, she ran, and she spent her entire life keeping me away from this place. As midnight approached, the mansion began changing. Portraits seemed to shift when I wasn't looking directly at them. Hallways stretched farther than they should have. Voices echoed from empty rooms. And somehow, impossibly, water began dripping from the ceiling. Rain inside the house. Then Mrs. Harlan confessed something else. She had spent years protecting the secret, covering up disappearances, hiding records, convincing herself that the sacrifices prevented something far worse from escaping. The house suddenly groaned around us. A door slammed upstairs, then another. The walls seemed to tremble. The mansion felt alive, desperate, searching, while looking through an old journal hidden inside the sealed chamber. I found the final page. My blood ran cold. Written in faded ink was my name, Claire Donovan. The date attached to it was decades older than I was, and beneath it were 6 words. The next offering arrives winter 2025. At exactly 3:30 a.m., every light inside the mansion went out. Darkness swallowed the building. Then we heard it. Slow, heavy, wet footsteps climbing the stairs toward us. The footsteps kept coming. Slow, heavy, wet. Each step sounded closer than the last. Then the mansion changed. The hallway stretched impossibly far, as if the walls were being pulled apart by invisible hands. The wallpaper began pulsing beneath the darkness, like living flesh. Every room filled with whispers. Hundreds of voices. Men, women, children. All speaking at once. All saying my name. I looked toward the window. The man was there, still standing in the rain. Then I turned toward the end of the hallway. He was there too, motionless, watching. A terrified gasp escaped my throat when I glanced back toward the sealed room. He was standing inside that doorway as well. 3 places at the same time. Mrs. Harlan grabbed my arm. "Don't look at him," she whispered. Then another voice spoke. My mother's voice. "Claire." I froze. Standing in front of me was my mother. Not sick, not dying, not the woman cancer had taken. She looked exactly as I remembered her before everything went wrong. Tears filled my eyes. For one terrible moment, I wanted to believe it was really her. Then, Mrs. Harlan shook her head. "It's lying." The truth came out all at once. The mansion wasn't haunted. The mansion was a prison. For generations, people believed the disappearances were sacrifices. They weren't. They were desperate attempts to keep something trapped beneath the house. Something that could wear faces, borrow memories, become anyone. The figure smiled. Its face shifted. Ryan, my mother, me, then back again. "Choose," it whispered. Its voice came from everywhere. "Take your mother's place forever." The walls groaned. Windows rattled. "Or let me leave." I grabbed an antique iron fireplace tool from a display stand and swung it through the nearest glass case. The crash echoed through the mansion. Then I ran. Portraits seemed to turn and watch me. Doors slammed shut behind me. The whispers became screams. I smashed the historic front window and climbed through broken glass into the snow-covered darkness of Roger Morris Park. The storm swallowed everything, including the mansion. Police arrived minutes later. What they found shocked the city. Behind hidden walls were human remains, personal belongings, decades of evidence connecting disappearances that had never been solved. Months passed. I moved into a small apartment in Brooklyn and tried rebuilding my life. Some wounds heal, some don't. And if you loved this story, please don't scroll away. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from and which part of the story hit you the hardest. We've got more powerful, emotional stories coming your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss them. I wish I could tell you it ended there. It didn't. Last night, I woke to the sound of rain. My room was dark. The digital clock beside my bed read 3:33 a.m. Then came 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. My heart nearly stopped. Slowly, I pulled back the curtain. The window was empty. Relief washed over me until I heard breathing behind me. I turned. The man wasn't standing outside anymore. He was standing inside the room behind me.